We got a 1, a 2, a 3, and a... Hey now! Metal Mike in the bunker, shooting a video. What day is it? It's Thursday. What's the date? You lost me. Monday was the 21st. That's the last I kept track. So let's stay focused, huh? Let's show a couple items of video. I really like that suggestion I got from one of my viewers yesterday. He said, Michael, why not just shoot 1 or 2 items, give a description, maybe what you paid for it, what it's worth, any tips you can on it. And that way, keep it simple, keep it fast, and maybe stay focused. Yeah, not always unscripted, right? You know I always like to keep with that, but... let's jump around. Where can we jump? Well, right here. Let's start with this piece right here. This is kind of interesting. This came out of an estate that I did in a farm that I cleaned out here in Minnesota. Where was that? I want to say it was in Becker, Minnesota. For some reason, that's clicking with me, but that could have been, I seen that on the news as well. But here's a piece that I got from an estate that I cleaned out this past fall. An amazing estate on a farm. Gosh, I wish I would have filmed and had the opportunity. I just didn't have this camera yet, so you guys missed out on that, and I apologize. But as I uncover things from that, I'll always mention it, the farm in Becker, Minnesota. And this is one of them. Now, a little history on the estate, just simply through word of mouth. My girlfriend, who is a beautician, works at her salon, has a client who mentioned to her that they were having a problem breaking down an estate of theirs, and that it had been dragging on and on. And basically, so what ended up happening, I got out there, I was able to purchase some items, and this was in the huge, I think I pulled 3 loads out of there. I went there 3 times, maybe 2 at the least. But let's stay focused. The man that I went there with, the gentleman, he was a retired fireman, and his father was also a fireman who was retired. And so this was picked off of their farm, and the wife was a collector, hoarder, antique lover, vintage item lover of all time. And that's where I ended up getting all those darn coffee cans that I have tons of. I filled my entire transit with them. And I've still got tons of them here and ready to go, and I've sold quite a few. But this piece is what we're going to focus on, right? Let's round it and get back to the point. Now, here's my question to you. If you're a fireman collector, is this a fireman's axe? Originally, when I seen it, it looks like a tomahawk. At first look, I do not see any type of markings on it. It does have a, it looks like a graded off, crossed off, to give it some texture on the rear head there. It has a nail pounded into the top to hold it in place. And you know, this is a piece that you do want to clean up because there could be a marking underneath that dirt somewhere. What did I pay for it? It came in a large lot, and as always, grouping is huge. And when I did that estate, I went in, so let's focus on that for a tip here. What I did was, rather than finding this item and going, ooh, I like this, it was just as simply, found it, can this go? That's what you're asking the homeowner who was with me and walked along with me through the entire estate. This wasn't a free pick where I just got to go in there, do it all by myself. He followed me along, which can be a little nerve-wracking because sometimes you'll find the coolest item, you'll dig and uncover it, and you pull it out and you go, how about this? And you'll hear, no, I'll keep that. And you saved it, and it's so frustrating, but that is life, and that is the reality of what you have to deal with if you're a picker. But the best thing I can do for you is advice in that situation when you find this. You basically want to, you're using everything to your advantage, the expressions in your face, the tone of your voice, everything. So when you find this, you go, what about this? You know, basically, do you want this? And if they say, oh, I'm unsure, then what you do is, oh, okay, you just drop it. All right, forget it. And you move away from it and go to the next thing. Basically, that's conveying to them that you could care less. And a lot of times I've done that move, and then they go, you know what, go ahead and take it. And that's great, because then you scoop it. So then you do that, you get the item, they say, what about this? Can this go in the pile? Because that's what you tell them. You say, I'm going to make a pile. How about I start a pile right here, and then at the end we'll figure out a price for everything. That is your best bet. That is a win-win, rather than a piece at a time. You want to avoid that. You want to put it all in the pile, and then later, once that pile is amassed, if there's a piece on the outer fringe that you weren't able to get in on the deal, you make that agreement for that pile, say you give them $250 for the entire pile. Now there's a piece that's on the fringe that you really want. This is where you try to fit that in, and you even need to step up to the plate. Let's say it's a real special piece, and when it's a real special piece, and it's worth paying, and you actually know the value of it, that's when you can really step up. So let's say we have a piece on the outer fringe that's pretty pricey. We've solidified this deal is done. $250 for the pile that we've made. Now we want that last piece. We'll say, well, I'll give you the $250. Awesome. And then now this is where you step up. You say, now since I spent the $250 with you, how about I really love that rubber galoshes that you're unsure about. How about I make you a very fair offer on these? I got the $250 spent. That's already in your pocket. I'll give you $150 for the galoshes. Now remember, I'm just using this as an example. The galoshes are not worth that unless, of course, you collect galoshes. Maybe they are. Hey, man. Hey, now! But that's not the case. So that usually by doing that, you've given them the $250, you've stepped up to the plate, now you're stepping up to the plate again because you want this piece. And stress to them, if you really want a piece, of course, you don't want to act overexcited. I learned that from my father, an old auctioneer in the business for years. He used to take me as a young boy with him along on a sale or a pick. He would run a simple ad in the newspaper, which I advise you to do because it is the simplest, most basic, and it's as good as going around door to door handing out the flyer, because the flyer is what America's built on. The flyer and the calling card are your salvation. Even in today's technology, even with this amazing technology where everyone wants to forget about that, print up a simple flyer, keep it basic, keep it simple, clarify that you're a hard worker and you pay up front, and take an ad out in the newspaper wanting to buy antiques and keep paying for it, because that's what my stepfather used to do, Gilbert. And we would go along on calls. We're rounding back around to my point now about not getting too overexcited and touching on that as when we're picking and tips. As a young boy, so there was a shotgun. I'd go, whoa! So I'm 10, 11, 12 years old, and it's showing. He'd give me a dirty look, and whenever we'd leave, he'd shake his head. He'd go, don't ever act excited. And if you don't get it, that's okay. Let it go. I had to learn that too. I would get frustrated because sometimes you can become so fixated on getting this one piece that really it surpasses its value. Because now it's kind of just like you're trying to get something. And it changes from you getting something that you can make a profit on or something for your private collection. Now, hold up a minute. As always, shooting off down another road. But if you're a collector, and that is something you collect, say it's a German helmet in my situation, I will step up and pay for it because I want it for myself. This isn't about reselling it. Is it about an investment? Sure, I know the limits where I want to top off. Maybe I want to just pay exactly what it's worth. If you need to do that to get a piece that you want for your private collection, I advise you to do that. It's better than walking away. If it's a special piece and you want it for your collection, do it. Step up to the plate. And if you know it's got that value right now, almost all antiques, that's probably too much of a broad statement. In military stuff that I know, German stuff, that stuff goes up between 7 and 15% a year. So that will always go up, and sellers dictate the price. So if I'm buying it for my private collection, it's staying with me for until retirement. Frickin' knock on wood twice, 800 frickin' times on the tomahawk wood handle to have a long life. And you make those smart investments in your retirement age, that's when you're going to be selling that stuff off. You do not want to be leaving that behind unless, of course, you have family that has the same passion that you do. Because otherwise, all your hard work is going to go down the shitter. So, break it down. Always be thinking ahead for retirement. What are retirement pieces? Retirement pieces are pieces that you love. You love, and they have value, and they're exceptional. And they're small. That's what you want. Small. Unless, of course, you're rich and you got barns and pole barns and frickin' airplanes and cars. Doesn't it drive you mad watching American Pickers? And the level of kingdoms that some of these guys have, the most beautiful shit. But you know what? It's almost like my situation, small, it's hoarded over. And that means it diminishes from the amazing pieces when you have tons of clutter. But that's what you have to do when you're picking, when you're selling, when you're making a buck. Tomahawk, what's it worth? Is this a fireman's axe? It could be, because his father, remember that this was the estate in Becker where I got this from on that farm pick. And we're getting that, we're rounding all the frickin' way back to it so we can try to stay focused. And obviously this is no longer a short video because of my big effort mouth. But here we go. The gentleman that showed it to me was retired. He was in his late 60s, early 70s, and he was a fireman, and his father had been a fireman, so that obviously dates his father. Could have had something so primitive and vintage. Is this a fireman's axe? Hatchet. It could be. Either that, is it an Indian hatchet? Doubt it. It's too, well, maybe. Anything's feasible, right? It's a rad little hatchet, whatever the hell it is. Anyone that can give me any advice out there on it, anyone that knows fireman stuff, that's what I'm going to list it on eventually when I do on eBay. That's what it's going to fall under. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the story behind it that is true, that it's from a fireman's estate. Maybe he carried that. Maybe that went to a ton of fires. I can't document it, but if that's a fireman collector is going to know if that falls under the umbrella of collecting fireman stuff. So that's the one piece we showed. We were supposed to do two, but I think I kind of covered it off by going on the tangent about picking and skills. Remember, don't get overexcited. Remember, when you're showing pieces and you always want to bundle, make the pile rather than one piece at a time. If you're able to do that anyway, if that's where you've set it up. Remember, when you're coming into a situation of picking an estate, that's what are going to be some of the first moves that you'll make, like a chess game. You're going to go, how about I make a pile here? If they agree to that, then you're in this situation where you can go, can this go in the pile? Cool. Boom. Keep making those piles. Keep carrying the stuff to the piles. Don't lay it down if you're picking, because that is a common mistake that I have made. You're picking, you find this. Can this go in the pile? Yep. And I put it here. I'll grab that later, and I keep, because you're so excited. You want to pick more. Take the effort, stop the momentum, go to where your stuff is, either that or have a box with you, have an old newspaper bag on you around your shoulder that you can throw the smalls into. Boom! Keep hustling. Keep picking, keep junking. Metal Mike from the bunker on a Thursday. Hey now! And I got some steak in the crock pot. You heard me right. Tenderloin too. Ridiculous, right? But it'll be good with those potatoes I got going with them, and it smells so frickin' good going throughout the whole house. What am I going to do today? Oh, I am going to show you one more thing because this video has gone over. It's no longer a short video. Let's get back to that hotel that I was in last week. Now, if you remember, if you watched any of those videos, there's that vintage compressor. I've been busy. I know it's dark. I know it's not the best. Let me turn on another light here. Just get another little boom of power to light it up a little. Now, I've been cleaning it yesterday, as you can see, and I've got a name off of it. I think it's called Devil Bliss. Look at this peerless motor on here, electrical. It's just a frickin' cow. This is vintage. I've done some research. It's got a tag on it. I've been wiping the grease off. As soon as it gets warmer, I'll take it outside. Ain't that right, buddy? We're going to take that outside, and we're going to sit in the sun, and we're going to clean that up, and I may put that up on eBay for local pickup only, as that I'll probably have to do with this old cow. Bought him for $200, gosh, probably 2-3 years ago already. Real relic shape, but his head is just amazing. Now, if you're an animal rights person, I get it. But this is an antique taxidermy piece, and I'm an antique collector. So I saved it. I'm going to save it. This stuff already exists. I don't promote it. It's absolutely disgusting and cruel. Hopefully, he just died naturally and someone taxidermied him. Either way, I still show respect for him. I know he's in the garage. I do have his missing ear. I just don't have the space to display him. Beautiful piece. I'm going to put him on eBay, or not on eBay. I may put him on eBay, but I'm a little scared because I don't want to piss anyone off. I'll probably sell him locally for $350. It's going to take a while. But maybe someone locally will have the love for this little guy. He's so rad. What a shame, huh? Anyway, Part of the business, seeing junk. I'll tell you one story. This is one, right? No longer a short video. No longer a calmly shot one. We've got the typical metal mic video, bad lighting, unscripted, jiggling, pitiful camera work, but a story indeed. And this is why you go out there. This is why you make the rounds. It's been, geez, I would bet 15 years ago. I was at a garage sale over here, northeast Minneapolis, where I live. And just, you gotta love garage sales. And there was a young girl. They had a big house over here northeast and a huge wood fence around it. And I ran up into the yard, and oh my God, did I get some great stuff out of there. I got a German, Hitler Youth, German Army. It's a backpack. You'll see them. They're made out of cow skin with the fur. It was beautiful condition. I think I paid 20 bucks for it. That was a nice piece. Don't have it. Wish I did. But this was the great piece. So, I'm walking amongst really cool shit at this sale. Just the kind you dream about. You know, with all good shit. There was a frickin' a tiger skin rug. It was old. It was tattered. But it was with the head, you know, taxidermied. And it had the real teeth. Some of the teeth were missing. The hide was not in that great of condition. But, oh my God, I got it for 20 bucks. Oh, I regret it. I took it to my son's school for show and tell when he was in kindergarten, and it was amazing. I brought that, and I was basically, it was, what does your father do for a living? I couldn't resist. You know, I'm a junk antique man, so I took that in there. The kids loved it, and I brought some old African utensils that I had picked up also from Africa that were amazing, and I tried to make it fun for the kids, but I remember the horror of the teacher looking at me when I brought this thing out. I paid 20 bucks for it, and I'll never forget, I looked at it, and it was in the box, and I go, wow, that's rad. And a young lady, good-looking young girl, probably 20s, maybe 30s, she says to me, I go, how much is it? She says, 20 bucks. I go, could you take any less? And she's like, 20's firm. It was my grandpa's. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, what the F am I doing? I was like, of course I'll give you the 20. I gave her the 20. I ended up selling the skin for like $3.50. I cut it off of the head. Stupid mistake. I was going to keep the head. Then I sold the head for between $300 and $400. This was years ago, over 10 years plus ago. And I had to do it to put food on the table for the kids. At that time, it was me raising the 2 kids by myself. No outside help, nothing. And so I had to sell shit that I regret selling. And holy cow, that is something that I'll never forget. And it crushed me that I had to sell it. And so I've always been looking for a piece similar to it. And the best part about it is she'd given me a little history on it. It was marked on pencil on the rear, too. It was officially antique. Her grandfather had shot it in Burma in the 1920s. Ugh, I regret that I sold it. It was really one of the most beautiful, great garage sale finds I've ever had. Another great find, because now I'm thinking, it's just bringing things to front. When I used to drive the alleys like Lamont, Sanford, and Son, I used to do that 7 days a week. Single father. I had an old Ford pickup truck, extend a cab, and I had the 2 little ones behind me, ages like 2 and 3 at the time, and we would drive the alleys. It was a great thing to do because the kids loved it, and we were together, and it was freedom. It was just beautiful time, and I'll just never forget. I would always, because I drove the same route 7 days a week, these same alleys that would run north and south. I always preach that if you're going to do that. Find a route and stick to it and keep banging away. So there was this house that kept like putting stuff out. That's usually what they'll do when they're cleaning out a whole house. They'll put a load out each trash day, a couple days prior, so you want to keep watching those houses. If you find an old pile of shit at the curb at an old house that's being cleaned out, go back the next week. Watch that house. Watch it, watch it, watch it. And that's what I was doing. And so one Sunday morning we were driving down the alley, sun's out, just beautiful morning, early too, because you always want to get out early as a junker picker. You don't want to be getting out when people are leaving and hitting you in the alley, flying out of their houses. And when I say hitting means they're pulling out, they're leaving for work, and you're in the middle of the alley blocking a way out, maybe loading your truck up. So I'd gone to this house. Let's finish this story up right. And one day I just go and I pick up the garbage lid and I look in, and right on top perfectly was an old Marx tin train set, like 4 cars and an engine. the old wind-up with the tin, Art Deco, probably early 20s. And next to it, I mean, just beautifully, I lifted the garbage can, I looked in right there, just right on top, just 4 tin marked trains, and then what was, at the time, was an amazing find for me, a wyndotte pressed steel little dump truck, which would have the little lights in it, early 1900s. With the rubber wheels, just a beautiful little pickup, orange and green, I remember it. And I remember finding that and just going, holy shit, is this frickin' real? Did I just, I couldn't even, I remember getting back in the truck and literally pinching myself. It was the most exciting feeling in the world. And that's out there, guys. You just got to get out there and hammer away at it. Remember, don't box yourself in if you're a picker, junker, whatever. Always go outside your box. Say you're an estate guy. Maybe that's exactly how you find your stuff. Thrift stores, estate sales, garage sales, and that's your thing. Auctions. Now, there's going to be off days. On those off days, just frickin' go driving in a part of town. Learn your garbage schedules in your areas. Watch for that kind of stuff. When you see the garbage cans out at the corner, make a mental mark. So when you have a free day and it happens to fall on a day prior to the garage, usually it's the night before is the biggest score, or early morning of the trash. But literally it can come anytime. But human psyche, this is huge. When it's beautiful, and it's a Sunday, and it's gorgeous and sunny, which some of you have year-round, but here in Minnesota, we don't. When we get those days, people get a hair up their ass. They want to clean that garage out like this, and they start making decisions, and shit goes to the curb because they need it fucking gone. That's when you can score. That's when you can pounce. Hey now! Enough! I will shut up, and I will try to get something done today. I guess I've already been to the grocery store. I've made a video. I've done laundry. I've taken a shower. We're banging away. Hey!